morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is the Microsoft Security Insights show for August the 19th, 2024 at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Good day, Ray. Good day, Rod. How are you both today?
Super fantastic. How are you doing, Brody?
Good day, sunshine.
Just dandy. Just dandy. Thanks for
I love your sound. I love your new microphone. I think that's going to work out well.
It's not it. I think I set up my sound profile in a different Windows profile because it didn't save across the profile. So it'll be better next time, but I'm glad it sounds good.
What do you mean, like sound profile? You're gonna hit us with like, do you like scary movies? Like, what are we doing here?
It's like you can get into like all the equalization
Gotcha.
levels and stuff. And I saved one in a different profile.
I like to talk exclusively through like a talk box. That's what that is. I want to hit them with the Peter Frampton experience, the wah-wahs, you know.
It has really weird like effects. Like, I don't know. What do I sound like now?
Ooh, that I feel like extraterrestrial.
All right now.
Even more. You're really amplifying it, and I'm loving it more than I should.
I'm a DJ robot.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's my favorite so far.
What else you got?
Good. I don't know. I can't hear any of them, so I'll have to go back and check. So one thing with the headset is I can hear my own voice when I have the microphone down on the headset, but I can't do that now. I can't hear my voice in my ears, which I like because then I know my own volume.
As long as you're not hearing voices, I think that's what
every
my doctor
day,
said.
Ray.
Like that's
every
the threshold, and I'm just like, stay tuned, you know.
But if all you're hearing is your own voice, then you also have problems. So
not according to my book, and I think that's.
You're writing a book? Did you have something to tell us?
Not yet. Stay tuned.
All right.
Oh.
So let's go around the horn. I have something to share that I think people will have interest in, but we'll come to that near the, as we go around. We'll start. I guess let's just start up top left for me, Brody. What have you done since we were last together? Anything of interest?
I have been waiting patiently for some projects to start. And that means I've been training and educating myself to prepare for customer engagements.
It must be nice. It really must be. I have to say, because this is the busiest beginning of fiscal year that I've ever had. I was hoping to be able to do stuff like that. So I'm a little jealous, but at the same time, I don't know if you're supposed to say that out loud, saying, hey, I don't have anything to do. Yeah.
Oh, I have plenty to do. I'm just waiting for some.
That was like a little bit of a shady comment, right? Okay.
Plenty to do. Everybody who's above me in the org chart, I have plenty to do. We're just waiting on customers to be ready for us. So so that's me. I'll leave it there. What about you, Ray? What's new with you?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Getting to interact with customers, collecting their feedback, shaping the service, which from hunting to the full stock augmentation, which is XDR, and that's totally kick-ass. I'm also working to seek some mentors. So like mentorship as like my next personal initiative or personal/professional. And I've been accepted to a couple of B-sides so far with the submission that I worked on with Professor Zambati. So that's pretty exciting stuff for sure. Still waiting to hear from B-Sides NYC. So shout out if you're organizing B-Sides NYC. Love an update there. That would be super badass to get to show up and show out in my home city. So, lots of stuff. And my quote here is from my 5-year-old this morning when I asked her to put on her shoes, and she looked at me and said, "What do you think I'm doing?" And I just don't know where she gets that attitude from. But I like to encourage it because you need to be a strong individual with a very clear perspective. So, I walk the walk, talk the talk. So good for her. with the talking back aspects. We'll work to finesse it a little bit with regards to teachers, but it's always a work in progress.
Cool.
So yeah, that's super interesting. I don't know what I would have done at that point. I would have said, no, not those shoes. Try these shoes. Or I don't know, go upstairs and get the other shoes I was talking about. Do some work or something.
Well, no, I mean, I wanted to, I was like, you are correct. You are putting on shoes. I just wanted to make sure that you had them on the right feet, so maybe my language could have been more, I like to acknowledge and validate as much as possible, and then gently nudge so that, we're building that confidence and can lead with focus. I grew up in a very authoritarian household, so I want to be sensitive to that. But, takes all kinds for sure.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Depending on what environment that you grew up in, you always, I think kids generally try to do just the opposite sometimes. A lot of times you're trying to just overcompensate, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I do that. My dad was really super awesome and nice. My mom was super awesome, but she was more kind of controlling. So I wanted to be kind of a good mixture. Doesn't necessarily always work out that way, especially when you're new parents, right? It takes a long time to figure that whole parenting thing out. Not that you ever do, but
no, right. I was
you
just
have a little bit of wisdom to share with your kids. Yeah. It's a learning in progress. You never arrive.
That's kind of poor Brody's like, oh, that sounds ominous. Fun, right? But it's great. It's beautiful, and it's a learning journey together. It's amazing.
Yeah,
loving it.
I see Richard, our good buddy Richard Diver, is in the audience, and Ray, I think he is just offered to help you write a book.
Amazing.
And he's tuning in from Twitch. Wow.
Woo!
Oh, weird.
So we had one audience member from Twitch last week. Hopefully Richard will bring more with him next time.
Well, everybody left. Never mind. I'm not going to get into this.
Yeah.
Brody's very passionate about this. He is,
and I appreciate that, because Twitch is a valuable platform. We could be everywhere. If we could be everywhere, we would be omnipresent, and that would be a wonderful thing.
If there was just one platform to rule them all.
Oh my gosh.
Beyond that platform.
Yeah, but everybody chooses their platform of choice, and you just really need to be present and evident for everyone. So totally appreciate that. Anything else going on from either of you two? Because I do want to share this little technical tidbit before we bring our guest. I think his name is Steve. I don't know.
It might as well be.
Yeah.
He's as cool as a guy named Steve, but his real name is even cooler.
Sorry, so Edward is not with us this evening, just simply because he has work to do, Brody. Hey, I do want to, so I want to, you can see my subtitle in my name this week is KB 504-1578. And I have heard this from a number of people already, and it's important to understand a couple things here as we kind of dig into this just briefly, because I'm not going to go dig into this deep. There is an issue with this patch that became available last week. In that, it does cause some errors and causes some disk and some performance issues with Windows servers, specific Windows 2019 servers, just so that you're aware of this. All right. But also just kind of keep in mind, and I understand from the stories that I've been told, or at least been part of, is that there's been so much work to try to remediate this patch that they didn't have time enough to contact Microsoft. But that is absolutely the correct and proper communication mechanism to use, is to contact Microsoft about this stuff. Because I will tell you that there's been a lot of stories about this over the weekend. Story I got earlier today, there was a team of 9 that literally worked all weekend to try to get this remediated on all of their servers. And I understand, when you're deep into an issue like this, it's more difficult to, kind of take those appropriate steps to contact Microsoft. But I tell you, the more people that take that step, maybe you have a team of 9 and one person goes and does that due diligence and contacts Microsoft and lets them know that there's an issue, the more people that contact Microsoft, the more critical it becomes on our side, and this thing gets resolved more quickly. So I will tell you, our good buddy Morton brought this to my attention last week, and I assumed that this would have been taken care of and such, but that's why I kind of wanted to share it here for anyone that's dealing with this. Morton, everybody knows our good friend Morton, friend of the show. Microsoft, probably the hardest working MVP in the Microsoft MVP program. I can't extol his virtues enough, but he works with a lot of customers, and he identified this issue and found a resolution to this very early on and supplied this blog post. I'll put this in the show notes. I'll also put this as a link in the live show here shortly, so you'll be able to click on this and go find out if you're having this situation. But essentially, it is removing a directory called catroot2 and then restarting the crypto service so that it kind of recreates that directory and then not reapplying that KB. There's also
One sec, Rod. One sec. I don't think we actually called out what it caused. So just in case people can't see what we had up on the screen, if you want to pull that back up. So it looks like we're getting the KB that you're referring to specifically is causing I/O issues on Windows 2019, disk I/O issues. And so they were wondering if it was related to their SAN or if it was, or wondering why their virtual machines were sending massive writes to storage. And this was the original problem that Norton's calling out in this KB article. And then the deletion of the folder that Rod just talked about is the resolution for that.
Yeah, let me put Morton's blog link in the show notes while I'm sitting. And that really sucked. I didn't grab the whole thing. Let me put it in the show notes so everybody has it here real quick in the chat. Morton's blog link.
I'm glad it doesn't say
anticipation. That's what it was.
Yeah. I'm glad it doesn't say blue screened of death 1/3 of the entire Western world. That would have been
There is other references of this. I found something on Reddit where people were talking about it.
You on Reddit at your age?
Oh, I do Reddit all the time. I have to.
Oh my goodness. Both of you play nice. That was just, that was in response to the earlier.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think there's more old people on Reddit than young people because most people type in all caps and they yell at people all the time. You could be the most helpful person in the world and you'll have some troll on Reddit come through and just say, that sucks. I don't agree with the way you know. So I think it's, I personally feel like it's a get off my lawn type of place. But this is important.
Sounds like the internet.
Yeah. And to kind of follow up, this is a known thing within Microsoft. There is a KB that's coming, a knowledge base article coming for this. It's just not been completed and approved yet, but it is coming with some potential remediation steps. Just so we're all aware.
Awesome. Thanks for making us aware of that.
Yeah. It has impacted quite a number of people. So I thought it was important to let people know that we are on the case.
And now every future incident for the next year will be potential CrowdStrike issue in air quotes.
Oh, did you
be
say
aware?
That word?
Headline grabber. Oh my goodness, we could have another CrowdStrike. Yes.
Wow. Oh yeah.
It's like after Watergate. Everybody called everything like a gate.
Well, we had what was the SQL worm? Remember that? And then we had SQL worm 2. What was the actual name of that red something? I forget. I need to go to Reddit. All right. We do have a guest this evening. Ray, would you like to make this introduction as we bring, I guess it's Steve on camera?
Yeah, not Steve. It's Hatim. Hatim, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. Do I intro or do you
introduce yourself, bro?
Cool. Yeah, so my name is Hatim Othman. Thank you, Ray, for bringing me on. I worked with Ray back when I worked at NYU Langone Medical Center, or I think that's what it was called at the time.
Fresh out of college.
Exactly. Yeah, I was a desktop support analyst, break fix, basically walking around in a suit and fixing printers.
He was wearing
did that for a while. And then and now I currently, through a couple different pivots and jumps, I'm now currently the head of GRC at Cisco Meraki.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Well, our theme this month is kind of non-conventional paths to cybersecurity or cybersecurity profession. Ray has a much better title. I just kind of merged it together,
Condensed
but
it, yeah.
so that's awesome. I would love to talk about that. Before we do, I noticed one thing. Is that like a fancy coffee maker you have back there?
He has all the.
It is. That's my other passion. That's a Linea Mini from Lamarzoco. I am a very big coffee connoisseur, and this is one of my other passions.
We should have
Yeah.
a show where you come back and actually we could have a whole making coffee session or something.
Yeah,
'Cause
this is
I love
all the
coffee.
drawers are full of a whole bunch of beans and toys and gadgets and all these
So
things that are
excited.
related.
Rod, tell him about your elephant poop coffee.
Oh, so yeah, I love coffee. I love coffee. I love coffee. My favorite coffee right now is the Double Dead. I don't know if you've ever had the Double Dead coffee.
I don't.
Go on Amazon, look for
He has
Double
a book
Dead.
where he takes notes, Rod. So
it's a
he might have to consult the record.
Yeah, it's a company from Seattle, so it's always, if it's from Seattle, it's not Starbucks. So it's not Starbucks, but it's Double Dead. I think it's Raven something coffee brand. Amazing.
Yeah,
It's the best.
Raven
Yeah.
Brew.
But we had a
Nice.
show. Brody, was it like maybe 2 years ago? Remember that I brought the special coffee on the show and drank it on the show? So you've heard of the cat poop coffee, obviously.
Yeah,
Hakeem.
I have some in my drawer, in one of these drawers. It's not cat poop. It's I forgot what animal it is.
Naturally.
It's like something with a C, but it looks like a cat, but it looks like
Yeah.
like a badger.
Is it like a capuchin monkey or
Maybe I
Is it an
forgot
ocelot?
what it is.
Ocelot?
No.
An ocelot. It doesn't matter at this point.
Something of
Just
that
any poop can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But along those lines, I've had that as well. I thought it was kind of neat. But I had found, and it's super expensive, but I bought it for the show and actually bought a
Expensive.
coffee cup. Elephant is my favorite animal. In case anyone wants to, buy me something someday, maybe a T-shirt.
No,
They're delicious.
Who knows? But the front of it has an elephant poking through some window slats, and then the back of it had its butt kind of sticking out. And so there is an elephant poop coffee that you can buy, and I purchased that and brewed it and drank it on the show. It is the best coffee I have ever had in my life.
Wow.
And how was your breath?
I'm gonna. Yeah.
You have to ask the wife, I guess.
Coffee breath. Pretty standard coffee breath.
Yeah, it was standard coffee. They took great care to clean it before they roasted it, I think. So
We'll assume.
That's half of the benefit, though, right? I would assume.
yeah, but you started out not probably a coffee aficionado, but you started out a little. Your direction toward cybersecurity was a little different, I think. Ray mentioned earlier today about which is actually interesting to me as well, because my oldest daughter wanted to be a vet. She went to school to be a vet assistant. She thought about taking that next step, but I think you were headed down that path as well, right?
I was. So if you were to ask my parents up until probably entering college, I was always telling them that I wanted to become a vet. My mother used to joke that, everybody was going to be a doctor and I would be a doctor of dogs, essentially. And, it's still got the same allure to being a doctor, but it's, just that caveat always is what kind of helps steer me in the right direction. But yeah, I've always had a passion for biology, for science, for evolution, ecology and evolution. And I decided to enter college with a plan to pursue a degree in biology and eventually take the entry exams for, I think it's called the VCAT, for veterinary medicine. And along the way, I realized, I don't know if I can be in a position where I need to make the tough calls for animals. I grew up with a lot of pets, a lot of cats, a lot of birds, a lot of fish. And I was just kind of like, oh, if I have to give the bad news to somebody, I'm going to end up just like taking this cat home or like taking this dog home. And, so I pivoted away from that. And while I was in college, I decided to also pursue. I was working in like the computer sites at Stony Brook. They're called sync sites, and I was just like the guy that would go fix printers and kind of fix the computers and replace the keyboards, etc. And that was just my side job essentially while I was in college. And then when I graduated, well, actually before I graduated, I also added a secondary degree in healthcare informatics. At the time, the government was making the change to electronic health records, electronic medical records become the default. So it was the very logical kind of, I'm going to graduate college and have a degree in something that'll hopefully get me a job. And so I graduated, I applied for a job at NYU, and I got a job fixing printers, doing what I was doing in college in the hospital. And so I was there for a while. Did that for probably like 2 years or so, about a little over a year and a half probably. And then I got promoted, became like a dedicated support technician in in the School of Medicine. I did that for about another year, I think, or so. And while I was there, I got my master's in enterprise risk management. And while I was getting my master's in enterprise risk management, my thesis or capstone project was a PCI or payment card industry DSS gap assessment for the hospital. So for anybody unaware, PCI DSS compliance is essentially any company that that conducts transactions for credit cards needs to have some sort of PCI level of compliance, depending on how many transactions they pursue or that they transact. How many transactions they transact. So anyway, did that. That was my master's project, and that's how I entered. My first official cyber role was the cyber team for NYU Langone Medical Center, and so I was kind of dealing with cyber threats and malicious attempts or kind of malware and all that jazz. Did that for a few years as well, and I really loved it, to be completely honest. Like, shout out to my old CISO No, and to my old manager as well, Steve. Steve, actually, which we were talking about earlier, he had really, he had one of the best names, right? That's, for anybody that missed it. Apparently, Ray read a book that said Stevens have one of the strongest names in the world or something.
There's a movie called Tao of Steve, and there's a whole speech where you got Steve McQueen, like every badass or cool guy, like name is Steve. There are many other badasses and cool people in the world, name all sorts of things. This just happened to be a very famous or well-known speech. It was a whole thing. Hatim said that somebody referred to him as Steve, and he's like, my name's not Steve.
Among other things.
Name's even more kick-ass. But I was just saying, if they thought you were Steve, that's pretty cool, because Steve is like a cool guy name. That's all I was saying.
Thinking about it, I don't know of any Steve that is considered like a negative or weak. Everything I think of. So you see my background, $6 Million Man. That's Steve Austin, right? He's super cool.
That's a Steve.
Steve Austin, the wrestler.
That's just Steve. That should be my tagline. That's Steve.
Yeah.
Steve.
I'm just as good as a Steve. That should be.
Exactly. But yeah, that was my first foray into cyber. Exactly, was to just kind of handle all the break fix, and having the background in desktop support actually gave me the insight into knowing the why behind security in my role in cyber threats. Right, like I know where essentially where the bodies are buried. Right, like I know the people that don't want to remove their laptops because they want to potentially have that just in case something happens when they get upgraded. So now we have legacy stored unencrypted drives
of the environment. Exactly. That's how we frame it. And to be in cyber, in healthcare, that is grueling. So it is not glossy. And then to have gotten there from help desk, it wasn't just like you sitting at a table, right? Like answering the phone. Like they had you hauling behind here, there, everywhere. Because there were like satellite sites as well. Like you were doing some serious stuff, all in like a suit, and literally you were wearing a suit.
Yeah, I was literally. I used to get like a lot of slack for this because I would wear like a suit or like at least like a shirt and tie everywhere, dress shoes, slacks, everything, and I was walking around like the east side of Manhattan, So all of my shoes, I had to get them resoled and redone like every 2 weeks.
Wow.
But because I'd walk from like 32nd up to like 38th or something, and down to like 25th or like 15th or something, like, and you're just like hitting up all these sites and going under desks and unplugging and replugging all these things. I remember one of my I don't know, like clients or customers, one of the women I was supporting, she turned to me, she goes, "What are you doing? Why are you wearing your Sunday's best and trying to fix my computer?" And I'm like, this is just a Wednesday. Like, I just wear, this is what I dress. And it's kind of like I dress that way because, like Ray said, this was my first job out of college. And I remember thinking to myself, like, in my mind, I always imagined that my job is going to be just wearing like suits. I have a formal corporate job now. I need to be wearing corporate clothes, like business casual at the very least. My Fridays were like no tie. That's it.
Casual
and
Friday.
it worked.
no time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So did that for a while and kind of helped pivot my mindset. I really do think that it helped benefit me to some degree because this is like kind of like the trajectory as well, is that I take it very seriously that people, if you know me in my personal life versus my professional life, they're very distinct, right? Exactly like Phil said, work good, if you look good, exactly. And it also helps your own confidence as well, right? So if you're confident and you speak profoundly with people, they'll kind of speak well with you as well, speak highly of you to others.
That was how you got into cyber too, because they would leverage your access to folks, because you would get a lot of FaceTime and folks would say, send the nice guy who would help me out and have a conversation. So you were leaning into your core skills, right? Like where they say the soft skills. But
Exactly.
cyber, the Saka, the IR team, right? They were like, "Oh, Hatim, go get that information that we need in order to advance this case forward," right?
Exactly. There were cases too where I had to go for like some forensic. There was one scenario where I had to do a forensic image of one of my users that I used to work with, not on my cyber role anymore. And because I've already built that rapport with them, and this kind of echoes, the same sentiment echoes throughout my career, is that you've already built a rapport with these individuals. You're able to kind of leverage that kind of soft skill or core skill to grow your skills in cyber as well. So yeah, I was able to do that, and I kind of kept doing that through the rest of my career as well. I moved to a job in California, working for a law firm. I was the senior information security analyst there, and I from there pivoted to PlayStation, where I was at PlayStation for a few years.
That's cool.
And then, yeah.
Did you wear a suit at PlayStation?
I did not, because PlayStation, for the most part, became a fully remote job.
Oh wow!
I will say I wore at least business casual up until the law firm, and I interviewed for the law firm remotely in New York, and the job was based out of California in San Jose. And I remember the first day that I showed up. It was literally my first day. Like, hey, day one, you got hired. Begin. I'm in California, Silicon Valley. This is a Mountain View office. I'm wearing a full blown suit, and my CISO he walks into the office, and he sees me, and he's like, "Why are you wearing a suit?" I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is day one. I'm starting my job. He's like, "No, the lawyers don't even wear suits. You don't need to be wearing a suit."
He's like, "You trying to take my job?" Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. What are you doing here?
Well, I can imagine though, because the way you dress, and there's that kind of that old adage: you dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Not the one you have.
I can assume that probably afforded you FaceTime or access to a different type of person sometimes within those companies that you work with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember having conversations with my manager. This was back in NYU too, is that like they would send me, or he wouldn't have me engage with various like high level or higher ranking individuals, and kind of just start those conversations. So I will say that helped me benefit in the beginning, helped me like pivot. I would recommend. I don't know if I would today recommend that to everybody, like go wear a suit. I don't know what the equivalent would be if you're in a fully remote role. Like if you still wear suits, it's still a talking point.
Not even remote. Yeah. If you work in the technology industry, it's really changed, hasn't it? I mean, it has. Nobody expects it, or at least I think they expect just the opposite potentially. Brody, you're in front of customers all the time. Do they expect you to deck out and Business attire?
So I like looking like business casual, smart when I'm in front of customers, like in
Smart
person.
and
You
sharp.
know, I don't go like to full suit, but you know, you want to be able to walk into like the CEO's office or something and sit down,
Yeah,
and not
exactly.
be out of place,
Pocket
but
square?
also be in front of like fellow techies, sysadmins, etc., and not make them feel inadequate or weird, right? So that's kind of my take on it. And you get away with a bit more if you're polite to people and you're dressed nice. So just classic consulting thing. But I'll tell you what, I used to also unplug and plug back in computers for a living and work on printers, and that would have been terrible with the suit on, Hatim. So good on you, and I hope that your dry cleaning bills for spilled ink, etc., lint,
Oh,
etc.,
man.
was worth the price of admission. Yeah.
Yeah, there was plenty of dry cleaning that needed to be done. So much of that. I do think it was worth it in the end. In the grand scheme
Yeah.
of things, it worked out pretty well. But yeah, that was definitely something that I wasn't really like. I mean, Brooks Brothers had a chokehold on me for years. I had to buy Charles
Well,
Turtle,
I
all these different
appreciate that.
brands. Yeah.
One of the first places that I worked for in the IT industry was for Deloitte, and it's a
Mhm.
partnership, and it was a requirement for us to wear good clothes, suit, tie, everything, even in the IT department at that time when I first started. There was no such thing as IT. It wasn't even a word or a term anyone used. We were still kind of considered just hired help, the secretary pool,
Yeah.
but we worked on computers, but we still had to dress like everybody else. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty fair like statement. Is just like you dress to make. I mean, Brody, you brought up really well. Is like you dress to make others feel like they're adequate for the most part. You know what I mean? Like you want them to not feel inadequate or like you're kind of overshadowing them. And I think that helps build the relationship. Yeah, exactly. The first and foremost thing with security or not, I think what really helps is like building the relationships with people, and whether that means wearing a suit, whether that means understanding their technology, whether that means kind of going to their conferences or discussions. I think that's the main key here is like do what it takes to build that relationship with people and earn their trust and support. And that's kind of what I mean, today in my career, that's what I take the like most near and dear to my heart is building that relationship and rapport with people. Because especially in security, we often are not in a position where we own the ability to execute on the things we want to do. We almost always have a dependency on other teams to actually do the thing. Like in my current role, we have a very strong dependence on a lot of our engineering teams when it comes to compliance or risk mitigation factors. Like our engineering teams need to be the ones that execute or deliver on some of these items. And so I think, if I need to wear a suit in order to get that done, I think that's one way to build rapport, and that's what I think what matters most. Yeah,
I love that. Relationship building is very important, my friend. Very important. So, like your overall career trajectory, really interesting, Steve.
yeah.
How does your interest in biology and healthcare how has that shaped maybe some of your experiences or your approach in the cybersecurity field?
Yeah. I think typically what I've heard in the past with like security overall is like people, uh, let's say like hackers almost like enter that field and like, oh, I knew from a young age when I was 6 years old when I was, breaking apart my old Atari or something, right? Like that's typically what it turns into, right? But like in my case, I just always loved the ability for me to understand the whys behind things, right? Like one of my degrees is in ecology and evolution, right? So the evolution, why did things become the way that they became? And so me in my background in biology is just like knowing why we are running into situations in security. Security as a whole has always just been interesting to me. Cyber overall, and I think incidents when they hit the news have always been very fascinating to me. But the why behind it, I think, has also been a really major driver, especially when it comes to the risk management function, right? Which is how did we find ourselves in this position? How do we prevent ourselves from being put in this position again? Like, what do I what did we do? Like, why are we dealing with this crisis, and why is this on fire? Did we not have the signs beforehand? Like, the retro is always, hindsight is always 2020, to be in a position where you say it's because, Billy never patches his system, but
Billy.
how come we never
Billy.
silly Billy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's always that, right? So I think in this case, it's
Not a
like, that's
Steve.
where I think,
Yeah.
no, oh, he would never. So I think that's kind of what it is, right? Like, the background in knowing why things happen the way that they happen and what kind of leads us to down that road is what's always been interesting to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
I'm
I
kind of
also
curious. I'm kind of curious. You've had all these different roles, right? Just looking. We've had Ren on someone that works at Microsoft on the show several times. He ran the SOC for Xbox, or at least created the SOC for Xbox. So you've done the alternate, right? You've done the PlayStation thing. But it just seems to me that all the way from the help desk, which is generally a demanding job because you're on call and you have to service literally everybody or anyone that passes you in the hall and asks you to help them. But what has been the most demanding job that you've had? Because I hear from people I talk to all the time, going from help desk to cybersecurity to different levels in certain organization stuff. And there's this level of mental acuity, or it can be more mentally demanding. What was your most demanding role, or is it the one you have now? Yeah.
I think, that's a great question. I think I would say each of them, this is going to sound very political in my response, but I think that each of them plays with a very different angle of how much like mental load they lead. The cyber threat side, incident response side, kind of what I did when I was at NYU was a very exciting, but very, also because it was earlier on in my career, was very exciting, but also very nerve-wracking at times, because those would be the on-calls, right? You're getting calls at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, there's a new thing you need to deal with. It's I think at the time we were dealing with Eternal Blue, which was a major problem at the time. And so those were the concerns that we had to address, and kind of just be like, where did we get hit? And then ransomware, and there were scenarios where like we were chasing insider threat or potential like physical threat. Somebody was on site and we were dealing with someone that was, potentially stalking a celebrity that was there for medical treatment.
These are patients, right?
A patient,
These are lives and livelihoods.
Yeah, like this is literally where if a system goes down, we could lead to potential death, which is very scary to be in that position. So I think that was one, right? That's one where like the mental load is very heavily draining. And then I would say like in PlayStation, there were moments where it was also, you're dealing with timelines. The very strict, very short timelines we're dealing with, keeping things online or keeping things hush hush. The developers are creating games that are 5-10 years in the making, and a breach in confidentiality is really going to impact not just sales, but this is going to impact whether or not people are interested in this tool, whether or not some developers feel like a blow because it wasn't protected well enough. Like, there's all these components that kind of had to deal with it. So I think that's also very stressful to have done with. In my current role, I'm in my most senior type role. So, leading a team of individuals. And I think that also brings it. I do. I told Ray that I had direct reports, and she was like, "You?"
Because he's amazing. No, because he's a consummate professional, and every time I see you level up, I'm like, "That's right, that's Hatim," and like he deserves it, because I remember the hustle and grind of the NYU days. But I also just imagine him fresh out of college too. Right? Like that's how I see, because we have not aged at all. Just because of genes, but it's just that's what it's like. That's so extraordinary for you. But you're right. You're in your most senior role, and you're leading a team, and that's exactly where you should be in your career. And people are fortunate to have you as a leader.
I appreciate that. No, thank you. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly kind of like the concern that I had initially, was like that's the other type of stress and kind of heavy load on mental capacity, is like, I'm not just working on my own individual contributor type stuff. It's like making sure that the people that are working with me are also well supported, well protected from the top down, that they can achieve what they're doing. And I've been fortunate enough in my past to have great leaders and great CISOs and great, directors that I've worked with. And I want to make sure that I can echo that for them as well so that they can grow. And I think that's pretty stressful, right? Making sure that they feel supported and can do what they're doing. And an old PM used to tell me his best role, or the best way that he can kind of present his role, is to keep the engineers engineering, so that just get out of their way. If they can just keep doing what they're doing, get out of their way. And that's kind of what I want to do. I have my team of engineers. If they can keep doing what they're doing, I can support them in that way. That's perfect.
Well, that's what I've heard recently. Something hit me, I forget, it was late last week sometime. And it kind of hit me for the first time. I mean, I kind of knew this, but somebody said it in a way that really resonated best with me, particularly from the management side. The higher level you get in management, the more people you have to serve. To be a good manager, you have to become a servant, right? You serve those people. It's not about you and where you're at and what your role and your level is, or hey, I get all these other valuable things.
Yeah.
It's more about being a servant to the people that you serve.
Yeah. And I make it really well known to anybody I can speak to, and to my team as much as I can as well, is that I really think it's important that my team gets a recognition for what they do, and that they actually are, their success dictates how well I am perceived. I don't do as much individually because my team has so much that they're also responsible for. And I want to make sure that they understand it's pretty much a mutual or symbiotic relationship there. And you're right. I mean, even GRC as a whole is a relatively high servant leadership type org. We lend ourselves to offering services and solutions to our partners in order to further improve their abilities within the business, whether that's getting compliance objectives or PCI, for example, FedRAMP, all these other acronyms that lead to additional more monies. If the business is doing well, we do well. And I always present this too, and whenever I discuss it too, is like, the business can survive without security, but security cannot survive without the business. And I think that's where I think it's important that we are in a position that we know that at the end of the day, we are here to support the business in achieving their goals securely without getting in their way. So
well put.
Yeah.
Well put. Security is business. I think if you come from a technology background like I have, you don't appreciate the business aspect as to why we're all here in the first place,
Yeah.
right? And it's supposed to be an enabler, not the Department of No, but an enabler, right?
Yeah, that was the name of my talk.
Department of No. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
No doubt, bud. No doubt. Well, I mean, yeah, it's capitalism. We're all here for a reason.
Right. Sure. Now it's Brody's manifesto. He's like, I am a believer. Let me.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
No, so I can see you. We look at your path to this cybersecurity. And you've been in cybersecurity for a while, but even at your level, where you work now, and in your management level there, you still kind of sort of have to continue to your knowledge path, right? And this is something that we always kind of discuss on the show: is what sources do you use, or what does your knowledge path look like? Is it changed over the years? Is it more stringent now, or what would you recommend to others how they build up their own cybersecurity knowledge?
Sure. I think my old mentors actually gave me some really good context. He led a whole bunch of teams within Silicon Valley and within the financial industry. But what he recommended to me was like, you need to read the news. You need to know what's going on in the world. You need to understand what's going on around you, because that impacts everything socioeconomically, based on like political different scenarios occurring, that we're going to find ourselves in different situations we have to be prepared for. So from that perspective, I would say, keep your eyes and ears open to what's going on in the world, and try to understand what the implications of that would do to your career, whatever career path you want to go down, whether that's offensive or blue team or GRC or whatever. And then on the other hand, like, to learn more about things, I have a folder just full of a whole bunch of different kind of feeds of things that I read. And one of them is like Bleeping Computer and a couple other like forums. And I've read a couple, old books that I've pulled just to kind of understand where people's minds were at the time. And then the other thing too is I know that this gets a lot of heat sometimes, but I think it is relatively valuable to some degree. Is I also do appreciate the pursuit of certifications,
Mm.
and so I don't think that certifications are requirements for jobs, but I think that Brody may align with this too. Is that it's sometimes it's what helps you get through the door sometimes, and it also leads to sometimes more of that money that you're talking about, right? So pursuing certifications and understanding the why behind some of these certifications is pretty critical. Exactly, for the Amazon podcast.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
things like that, or other podcasts, right? Any other
Well,
podcast from any.
Yeah, Ray just came back from
Just this
Black
one.
Hat, and a lot of
Yeah.
the conferences that she attends, she actually, poor Ray, she pays for herself. What are some conferences that you might attend that you would say these are absolutely, if you have to pay for yourself, these are the conferences you should
Yeah,
How
I
would
would
Ray's
still-
leadership allow for this?
I know.
Wait, what? This is not any leadership listening. Please, this is not my talk track. This is,
If
I'm
only
getting
you worked
trolled.
for a bleeding edge technology
I am
company
getting
pioneering
trolled.
the way in artificial
Anywho.
intelligence, that maybe you'd be able to be
Oh
given
my
an
gosh.
opportunity to be traveled.
Brody.
Yeah.
Anywho, so Wi-Fi Pineapple, tell us more, Hatim. Hatim went to DEF CON. And so from what I gather, he's a lifelong learner, but I'd love to learn more personally about your approach to honing your skills in the cyber realm.
So I did go to DEF CON. I did go to some other conferences along the last few years. I would say B-Sides really is a great conference. I did a talk at B-Sides up in Buffalo, but B-Sides NYC, your local B-Sides, I would really strongly encourage you to network with people, learn what people are doing, kind of listen in on what people are presenting on and what they're passionate about. I think passion breeds passion, and you kind of start to understand what people are kind of doing in their lives. To touch on what Ray was referring to, when I was at DEF CON, I picked up a couple toys. And I think that although I'm not in my day-to-day today, hands-on keyboard, breaking things and reviewing things within, incident response or these other toolings and security operations, that doesn't stop me. I mean, like behind me on this side, I'm not pictured, is like a small stack of tools that I'm messing with, right? Like there's
show us. Why don't you show us, Hatim?
No, there's like
out this window
under
all my tools.
under this plant. There's like a Wi-Fi Pineapple. There's a Flipper Zero. There's like we have a
Flipper
Raspberry
Zero.
Pi there.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
controversial.
technically illegal. Just
it is.
Yeah,
it is. Mhm.
So all these different things just to like mess around with and kind of play with in a lab. So
I think
that's what I want to
conferences.
do.
Conferences. It's like it puts you're in a place with like-minded people, right? Where you can actually talk. I was at a family event recently, and I'm just so quiet at these things because nobody gets me, right? They don't know. They don't know what I'm thinking about all week long. So, but every once in a while, somebody will say, "Hey, what do you do?" And I'll say something, and then they'll hit a chord where I think they know what I do. So I go on this like 30-minute tirade, and I can see that they blank like about 10 minutes in. They're like, "Oh, I didn't want to know all that."
So you kept going
so I
for
think
the last 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was just for me.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Long story short, we should all attend a conference together as the podcast, right? And then Hatim will be there. He will be tinkering. Maybe he'll use some of his toys, but only in like the chaotic good kind of way. But this is what I'm gathering, Rod. We'll do a social welfare check on you, so you feel good.
Well, I'll let you. Yeah, you can speak to me. Speak to your mind's delight on whatever floats your boat, whatever strikes a chord.
Yeah.
Talk to your people.
Well, we are trying to all get to Ignite together to have a show. Hatim, are you going to Ignite this year? Is that a possibility?
I don't believe so. I think that I'm done traveling for the year. I have a lot.
He's like, no.
I'm traveling.
Maybe.
Yeah. Be washing my hair.
But maybe. All right, we'll see.
Roasting beans.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have any more work travel I have a couple on sites.
You put him on the spot. You can see that he's all like awkward and uncomfortable, but he really wants to talk
Flustered.
about all
You can
the.
see,
the
he was
coffee
talking about
related-
politics earlier. You can see it's going on in his head. Should I say that? Am I allowed to? Yeah.
No. It's just more so like, yeah, there's a couple on sites or like off sites, depending on where you would consider. But other than that, no other conferences planned this year. But I would say, like, just to echo what you were saying too, Rod, is that like going to places where there's other like-minded individuals, which sounds simple, but really it's even if it's a vendor conference for a specific tool, right, that you might have. So like a GRC tool that we purchased is having a virtual conference that is free versus the on-site conference that costs money. Attend the virtual one. Attend the training. It probably counts towards your CPE training credits anyway that you may need for certifications to be maintained.
And you
so
live that.
Look into that.
You gave me the heads up of the neurodiversity conference, virtual conference that SANS was providing, right? And I think that was like pretty kick-ass. That was super cool that you like actually embody the principles and values that you're sharing with us. Like,
yeah, spread the love, spread the knowledge. SANS is a really great organization. Black Hills InfoSec, other great organization that does a lot of like pure security content sharing. And I would highly encourage that. If not for nothing else, at least maybe it'll triggers a spark in you that you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I didn't really consider pen testing, for example, and now that's something that sounds cool to me. And I think Ray, you were talking about it earlier. You were considering looking at mentoring to some degree, and I think that would also be aligned with like something you could share with a mentee. Mentoring.
Oh no, I meant like me getting a mentor. But yeah, sure, happy to be
that too.
Somebody. I don't like reach out to me, reach out to Hatim, anyone else that you hear on the podcast. But I was looking for a mentor. So give me a call.
She didn't reach out to me. You can see that.
This is how old I am, where I do the phone gesture, but nobody's gonna know. I should do like flip, but then it's like Star Trek, like kind of the tricorder, right? So okay.
I don't think nobody would get that one either. Like
shut up. Nobody.
I got it.
Yeah.
Me and Brody are simpatico. Okay, this is what that tells us all.
And if you're a fan of Star Trek and would like to be Ray's mentor, please reach us on the show at mentor@MicrosoftSecurityInsights.com.
Yeah. She's going to get a lot of LinkedIn.
Yeah, a lot of spam. That's amazing. Okay, thank you so much.
Live long and prosper. Hey, Hatim, other than just buying a suit and wearing it everywhere, what would be your biggest tip for our audience of how to move ahead in cybersecurity?
Good question.
I think it's a great question. I think going back to what I said about building relationships is probably my biggest takeaway. You never know who you need to reach out to get what done, or who needs to reach out to you to tell you about something that's coming your way that's probably going to be a big fire or whatever. So always build a relationship with the people around you, and remember to prioritize business first, right? So if you have to, if you take the CISSP, it's going to tell you like prioritize life and like human life, which sure, that too, but also like always prioritize
good advice,
like the business as a whole.
Always be closing. Apparently, people always be closing, but always be closing.
Yeah. There was this thing back in the 90s that you're supposed to this work-life balance thing, and if you notice, work came first in that equation, right? Work-life. It wasn't life-work balance. It was work-life balance. So it never really came to fruition. Edward's with us, by the way. I think he just wants to get his face on screen this week. So
gotta keep the streak going.
Yeah.
You have to address the thing. These guys don't take this.
Look at that.
The best hands on the pod. Rod's t-shirt. Brody won't get a haircut. Ray will come in fashionably every now and then. That's okay.
I'm rocking the DEF CON gear. First of all, let's be clear, okay? I paid for. I'm going to show up with it, okay? So
yeah,
Vogue. Thank you.
Let's be clear, Edward. Good to see you, Edward.
Good to see you too, Brody. You rock.
That's how cool you were, Hatim. Edward's like, let me join this real quick because I You want to get
I need to
FaceTime.
be on this. I need my face shown. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Well,
that.
that's how he writes out impact for his connects. He's like, well, I was on every show, maybe for 5 seconds, but I was on.
God, today with the zingers,
Attendance.
Rod, we're
I've been. I was off
Exactly.
last week. I was off, not feeling well. I'm
gonna make
energetic.
up for it. I got it.
Yeah. Gotta make up for it.
I'm here making sure, Brody's employed. You got to sell, right? Keep the business,
Well,
right?
hopefully you sold a lot today because Brody apparently is just.
I would not mess with Brody. I feel like Brody could really deliver it, and I just I don't want any of the smoke at any point in time. So I'm happy, just like rah for everyone. This is everybody participation trophies for everyone on my watch. There we go.
Brody always remember the business
He does. He does.
cannot run without the business. Brody.
Thanks, Edward.
He's like, I heard that the first time.
Thanks.
So we're
Thanks.
near the end of the show. Thanks, Edward, for showing up. But we're near the end. I thought we would maybe end the show, Hatim, because we kind of started the show on the same topic. What is your favorite? I mentioned what my favorite coffee was. What is your favorite coffee? Since you are a coffee person, obviously you have some favorites.
Yeah. I would say so. Anybody in the Bay Area or in San Francisco specifically, there is a place called Wrecking Ball. So Wrecking Ball Coffee Roasters is probably one of my favorite. Yeah, exactly. They have a blend called the Pillow Fight blend. I really like them. I think today, actually, I'm drinking, you can see it up here, there. There's a brand called Arabica. So it looks like the % Arabica. I would recommend them. And another one based out of Massachusetts, I believe it's Boston, is one called Grace Note, which was actually really good too.
What's the name of that one again? What did you say?
Grace Note.
Grace Note. I'm gonna write that one down. All right.
So I have a
I'm
whole
always looking for good coffee.
list. I've got
Yeah,
a
you have
bunch.
to share the list. That's like Hatim's blog. That's what you need to do.
You got it. I'll send it over to you, Rod. There's also
I would
there's
appreciate that. We'll put it in the show notes. I'm sure we may have to go down the list over the next few shows. just to make
Yes,
sure.
tasting. A flight
Yeah.
of coffee.
Oh man, there's a place in Paris does an omakase, coffee omakase called
I've never been
Substance
to
Cafe.
Paris. I want to go to
It's so
Paris.
good.
So bad. Is there a conference I can rationalize it for myself?
If you pay for it yourself.
Obviously, I pay for everything and all things in my life myself. Thank you.
Okay.
My favorite coffee
Cool.
is warm.
Is warm. Yeah.
Not hot.
Not too hot because then it's too hot.
I drink it
Not
both
too
ways. I
cold.
drink coffee hot and cold. It just doesn't matter to me. I just like
I
the
don't
taste.
know where
Let's
to
take
put myself.
Yeah,
The
I'm
baby bear of coffee.
more in line with Brody on that. I like warm coffee.
Oh,
warm.
that's a stand.
Tepid.
That's a political stand. I'm going to go on record. I like warm coffee. I don't like it hot. Don't you give it to me hot. But I don't like a cold brew. I like warm. Okay.
No
That's-
iced coffee. Yeah.
Didn't say
Not
I didn't
tepid.
like cold brew.
See?
It's just not your favorite.
That's just a different. I think that's just a different category.
It's not.
Personally.
It's coffee. It's just,
but it's like a coffee for me is just like a glass of coffee. But it's like, oh, I want a cold brew or.
did you
like
say a
Frappuccino.
glass of coffee?
That's different. That's like a
not coffee.
summer hot weather beverage.
I drink
classify
hot.
it
Well,
differently.
I drink hot coffee in all temperatures. Right.
Yes, I bet.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I like.
Yeah.
Cold coffee's good. Yeah. What's wrong with warm coffee? What do you got against warm coffee, Ray?
I don't have anything
Ray.
against warm coffee. It just seems like a very peculiar preference to be
Not
very,
it's not very
vocal
inclusive.
about.
It's not very inclusive.
Ray, are you? Yeah, it's not very inclusive. Like I
That
want
is
to have my
super
own.
inclusive. I said I'm curious about it. I'm fascinated by it, and I want to learn more about the benefits of a warm beverage versus a hot beverage. That's all. That's all.
You
I'm
know, we'll take
waiting
this
for
offline.
fascination.
Yeah,
Yes.
somebody
Stop.
literally kicked over the trash can, and now we're covering everything else in the world. Hatim,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us tonight. It has been super wonderful. I think our audience actually got some really good commentary out of it. Some
Yeah.
valuable tips.
I
I did
appreciate
too.
it.
Especially Grace Note. I'm gonna go look for that like right away.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, all of you, for your commentary, your support, your kind of questions, all that stuff.
Coffee and all.
Yeah, all the way around.
Yep.
Edward, you want to close us out?
Oh no, man! I can't come in and take the glory. You guys, I've been listening in the background. I just couldn't say anything because the people were before I got in the car. No, man, go
All
ahead.
right. We're gonna pick the short straw. Brody, close us out.
Thank you for listening to the Microsoft Security Insights Show, episode 223 with Hatim
Nice.
Othman. Please